Welcome back. It is the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Solagent, your clean energy solution provider. Solar panels, the best brands. Racking, the best brands. Iron Ridge, Unirec as an example. Inverters, the best brands. Energy storage, the best brands. We have it all available, including EV chargers and electrical balance of systems. We can get you everything you need at Solagent for your clean energy solutions. We are your clean energy distributor. Go to solagent.net to find out more today. Sign up as a dealer if you're an installer, or heck, if you're a homeowner listening and you're like, man, why is my installer not using Solagent, right? Maybe they fell off the roof and bumped their head. Who knows? Go and remind them. Use Solagent today. We are the Beyond Emissions podcast. Here at the Solagent YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Be a part of our ongoing conversation about what it's going to take to create a world that is beyond emissions. Also as well, the Beyond Emissions podcast is available at Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, as well as the Solagent YouTube channel. I want to thank our friends in the United Kingdom. Welcome to the Beyond Emissions podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Josh Brumm, Energy Storage Manager. All right, that's horrible. I shouldn't do that. But it's totally an ode. I'm excited. It is an honor. I just had someone come up to me at the RE+. Jeff Beju from HomeGrid actually walked over to me at RE+ NorCal and puts his hand up on my shoulder and goes, "Did you know that your podcast, Beyond Emissions, it's huge in the UK?" I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He said, yeah, over there in the UK and England and Great Britain, it's unreal. Everybody's listening to the Beyond Emissions podcast. So across the pond, hats off and cheers to you, our listeners in Europe and the United Kingdom. Thank you so much for choosing the Beyond Emissions podcast. We look forward to continuing to provide you with free education, as much value as possible to expand your knowledge, to help you be more valuable for your customers, your teammates, and yourself. We appreciate you listening in the UK to the Beyond Emissions podcast. All right, let's get to it. A great guest today. He's been on the show before a couple of times, and we're glad to have him back again. Thomas Sbrega from Sbrega Electric, Sbrega, Sbrega Electric, or SbregaSolar.com. Welcome back to the Beyond Emissions podcast, Tom.
Thanks, Josh. Good to be back.
I am so glad you're back. We are living in a world of a transition. You've seen the numbers this last year, right, Tom? Bernadette Del Chiaro, Executive Director of CALSA, California Solar Storage Association, was on the Beyond Emissions podcast in December, describing a total bloodbath in the world of solar and storage economics because of what's happening in California, coupled with the high interest rates to borrow, etc. And because of that, a ton of companies that were not prepared or educated or watching our YouTube videos to learn, right, at the Solagent YouTube channel, they really just, up until the final moment, installed NEM2 systems. They avoided becoming the battery experts that they needed to become to truly help customers. And layoffs. Everyone who failed to truly embrace storage and change their business model in California, they went down. But yet, there were a lot of companies that early on, like Sbrega Electric as an example, embraced energy storage from day one. Those were the survivors, and I like to say thrivers, right, Tom? At the end of the day, it's sad what happened with the policy, and it caused some major disruption in our market. But in all reality, it's an opportunity for those who embrace energy storage, right? What are your thoughts, Tom? Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be back. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right there. If you embraced energy storage early and took advantage of this, you can actually see that it's not so bad. And there is something else coupling with it, because then batteries do add cost, and the cost is going to add time on your return on investment. But there's something coupling with that, which is higher PG&E rates. So the higher your PG&E or whatever utility you're in, the higher your rates are, the more attractive that ROI looks. And those extra money you pay for the batteries actually comes down, and in some cases can even wash away because of the higher rates. So you're getting more money back. Therefore, even though the materials cost a little bit more, I mean, some smaller homes, maybe it's a $10,000 investment, maybe it's 20 or 30 if it's a larger home. So you are getting 30% tax credit back on that. And when you factor that in with the fact that you have higher utility rates, it can be a wash or very close to it. So in many cases where you used to get your money back in 6 to 8 years, maybe you're getting it back in 7 to 9 or 8 to 10. So maybe it's a couple of years more of an investment. Larger systems always get their money back faster, of course. The bigger your bill is, the faster you're going to get your money back. So yeah, you might have to wait a year or two more to get your return on investment, but that's not a big deal in the long run. These panels, like the panels we use, are guaranteed for 25 years at over 90% efficiency. So this is a long-term investment. If you have to wait 1 or 2 years to get your ROI back, you still have 20 years on warranty, and then it's probably going to last much more than that. So it's still an excellent investment, and for the people who know how to design and work with it and install these products, they probably have more customers now based on, like you said, the competition bowing out in a lot of instances.
It's really all about explaining that value proposition, getting the customer to understand the value proposition of energy storage beyond just battery backup, which is very applicable where Tom Sbrega from Sbrega Electric, our guest on the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Solagent. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Thanks again for being here, Tom. A lot of your customers in your area, there are a lot of outages in the foothills, Yosemite, Mariposa, Coarse Gold area in California. A lot of outages, fires. And so having battery backup for that reason and not having to solely rely on generators alone because you can run out of fuel. I mean, there was a week or two at a time, a year and a half ago when there was those giant storms up there, Bass Lake, Yosemite area, etc. And folks were locked in their houses and they're running out of generator fuel. So people were going around on snowmobiles to hand out fuel to elderly, folks and residents. And it's amazing in your area. Battery backup's one of the biggest reasons why someone would want to have batteries. But in a lot of residential circumstances, like you just talked about, the cost versus the higher rates that the utility is going to be charging right now. Even I've seen some increases already happen that have been approved by the CPUC. At the end of the day, not only is there battery backup, but there's an ability to wash away that upfront cost over time by having it pay for itself. And the return on investment is amazing. Another thing that most folks don't think about, because they talk about solar. I love solar. We are, one of the pioneers in solar distribution since 1979 here at Solagent, right, Tom? I mean, you're Sbrega Electric. You specialize in solar, sbregasolar.com, right? I mean, so solar is definitely a cornerstone of what we do, but really what we do is clean energy. And what people don't realize is that standalone storage, and again, I say this because it can cut the principal people have to borrow up front in half by not including the solar. So where applicable, where someone has time of use rates where they have a really, really low off-peak rate and they have a really, really high on-peak rate, standalone storage without solar, it's about half the investment up front than if you add the solar in. So for those customers that just want to save money, but they don't have the ability to borrow that big, huge upfront amount, you could actually do standalone storage, which qualifies for the 30% federal tax credit without solar. Most people don't know that. It is an advantage of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, that was signed a couple years ago, bipartisan basis. And that 30% tax credit applies for that standalone storage. So you get the amount of energy that you're going to be consuming at night. You build a battery bank for that. You charge it when the rates are cheap, discharge it to your loads when the rates are high, and profit the differential. The payoff, we've modeled it in many different ways. It's anywhere from 4 to 6 years. And if you size it correctly, like Tom said, you can get over 20 years life expectancy out of your lithium iron phosphate batteries. I mean, that's a heck of a payoff, an ATM machine in your garage. Are people embracing standalone storage, or do you think that that's a good strategy in California to get people, give them a way to save on their electric bill without that huge upfront investment that maybe adding solar with the batteries might cost?
Yeah, you can do standalone storage or just a very, very small system, just a few panels. That way, if you ever did have a blackout, at least you have a small trickle from your roof charging the batteries, and it would help offset your bill a little bit. But yeah, with the new rules, they created a market also for small systems, because with the new rules in our area in California, they don't want to pay you back retail rate anymore for your electricity. They want to pay you wholesale. So you don't want to oversell to them. If you're on a limited budget and you want a small system, the chance of you overselling to them is minimal. You're probably not going to oversell to them if you have a small system, if you have only a few panels and a small battery backup. What it would do is it would supplement your bill. And then that supplement, maybe it'll save 30-40% on your bill, but it's still something, and that will still pay itself back in 5 or 6 years or whatever the payback is. So that's kind of what I would recommend, and that's kind of the direction we've been going with people on a budget, is going with a small system to supplement their bill.
And they still have emergency load battery backup fridge, freezer, lights. I mean, if sized properly, depending on how big they make that energy tank. That's perfect because, with standalone storage, that differential from the charge cost for the low peak, off-peak times charge cost of the batteries versus the discharge value at night, sometimes that differential isn't enough. And like he said, if you have a very small system, I mean, goodness gracious, just build a system big enough to charge the battery back up. And then now you even have emergency power. I mean, you can do this on a budget. It doesn't have to be whole home backup. Great question, though, Tom. Tom Sbrega from Sbrega Electric with us on the Beyond Emissions podcast. By the way, thank you very much for choosing Solagent, Tom. We appreciate our partnership working with you and Sbrega Electric all these years. It's amazing the value and benefit that folks get from installing standalone storage. But if you add in the solar, if you add a very small PV array, I mean, think about it, right? A fridge is 1,200 watts. It's going to run roughly about 6 hours total in a day. And thank you for humoring me here, Tom. We go 1,200 times 6 hours of actual runtime. That's 7.2 kilowatt hours. And then let's say you throw in, 450 for a deep freezer times 6. It's 2,700 plus.
Those are really high wattages. I don't think you would.
Right. I'm going way over.
Yeah.
And so you could have 10 kilowatt hours of battery, and that right there could cover some basic emergency loads. And 10,000 divided by 5 hours of peak sun, 2 kW of PV array, divided by 0.85 for inefficiencies, 2.3. So 2 to 3 kW of PV array with a very small battery system gets people an advantage, gets them savings, gets them an emergency load battery backup system, all without breaking the bank. That's your idea is great. There's a middle ground that can still help people here who are on a budget, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you use all the materials at your disposal, all the products at your disposal nowadays, you can design big and small efficient systems. And yeah, I mean, it's the bills, the utility rates are so crazy that if you can just take a dent out of it and still get your money back in a reasonable time, and then, if you plan to live in your house for 10, 15, 20 years, that's all payback. That's thousands and thousands of dollars a year back into your family's budget that doesn't have to go to the utility company.
Right.
Even if it's a small system,
Right.
They might be getting you on the rest of it, but at least you got some out of it, some dent out of it.
Yeah. In other words, let's stop looking at the traditional, we're going to get you off of PG&E. When Southern California Edison no more, you're off the grid now. And believe it or not, everyone thinks they want that. And it's possible. We can do that. We can totally get you off the grid. Tom Sbrega Electric is an example. Go to sbregasolar.com or sbregaelectric.com. He can help you. But holy smokes, you're right. Stop thinking of solar all the time for everybody as a way to get off the grid and off the utility. The reality is start looking at it as a financial investment. And if you do it like that, it doesn't have to be a total offset, right? You nailed it, Tom. Tom Sbrega Electric on the Beyond Emissions podcast with a huge light bulb moment right now. All right, Tom, I've got the calculator out just to show people what this looks like. Realistically, if you had 2 kW, a really small array, you're not going to really sell much back, if anything, right? You're going to just power the loads that are on in the home during the daytime while the sun is shining. And the cost for that really, really small array, like even not even including storage, because you're not sizing it big enough to sell anything back. You're just sizing it big enough to power your daytime loads. That offset, let's assume it's 25 cents per kilowatt hour. I could be wrong. It could be higher or lower, Tom, right? But let's just say
in our area it's like 40 cents.
40 cents daytime?
Yeah, our area is like 40 cents now.
Okay, so
40 cents, 42 cents when it's peak. It's expensive here.
What's daytime when there's a lot of sunshine out there and a lot of solar on the grid and that wholesale?
I don't have it all memorized. I just know that the fact that when you take it all in, because I do a lot of analysis for like the entire year.
I love it.
And we're getting people right now when we do analysis for the last 12 months that have paid 38 cents. Wow. And that's for the last 12 months average. Wow. So that's daytime, nighttime, peak, off-peak, everything. It's just the average. And that's how we, or at least that's how I like to get an idea of what it is. And over the years, I've watched that go from 18 cents to 40 cents over just 5 years in business here.
Ouch.
It was even less when I started in the industry.
It's bad.
So it just keeps going up and up and up and up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you could have a small system that pays itself back. And if it's small, you don't have to worry about that excess. So you can size it bigger than your load, but it'll be charging the batteries.
Exactly.
So if you do the math right, you can charge the batteries and power your loads during the day, and then at night you start draining the batteries. And if it's a smaller system, there's less of a chance of that excess going to PG&E for 4 cents a kilowatt hour when they're charging you 40 cents.
Right. So you could add a small battery, or as an example, you can even do like a little 2 kW array or something with like some phase microinverters or whatever. And, you're going to basically produce about 10 kilowatt hours a day on average. So 10 kilowatt hours a day, let's call it, you said 40 cents. I'm going to come down in the middle, meet in the middle, 0.30 cents times 10 kilowatt hours a day is an average savings of $3 a day times 365. Again, this is average, $1,095 a year times 25-year life expectancy of the panels before they reach 80% of the original capacity output. That is a lifetime savings. This is no storage. This is just a very small array of $27,375 minus whatever it might cost to install a 2,000 watt system that's not even including a battery, just PV only. My goodness gracious, that is an amazing payoff, Tom. Don't get me wrong. We want people to embrace storage. We want folks to find that right size system that's right for them. But there are customers out there that have an electric bill and could benefit from something like this. Just a very small array powering daytime loads only could have an extremely fast payoff period and be a financial investment. In other words, not just looking at this in the big way, but look at it in the small way as well. I mean, there's more customers we can service with strategies that are outside the box like this, right?
Yeah, and you can always add panels later. I mean, once we're in the NEM3 pay rate for our area in California, which is PG&E, SCE, and SDG&E, that all three of them did the NEM3 thing, which changed the rules. So yeah, I mean, once you're on that rate, you can start small, and maybe a few years down the road, add 5 more panels or whatever, and kind of add it like that if you wanted to, because you're on the same rate anyway. But I mean, I would definitely recommend a small battery at least. But I mean, there's a lot of options out there now. You can do a small battery and a small inverter, grid tie hybrid inverter with a small system, and maybe you can get it down to, if you got it down to 25,000 and after tax credit of 30%, you're only paying 17.5. And if that pays off in 5 years, then you're getting that. And you're going to be making thousands of dollars a year,
right?
$4,000 a year into your pocket.
An ATM, an ATM machine in your house. Not to mention what?
Not to mention your tax credit, which you could reap that benefit immediately when you pay it. I mean, not immediately, but when you file your taxes within a year.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. And there's other advantages as well, like, for example, SGIP, self-generation incentive program. You are an official authorized installer for SGIP in California. Would you be willing to tell our listeners who are in the business that you're in some advice on how they can get that money for customers? And, how do you go about doing that? I know it's a little bit difficult of a process for folks.
Yeah, well, when I started this, we started immediately battery focused. So we were SGIP developers from the very beginning 5 years ago when we started. And in the SGIP rebate program, that's what it's called, an SGIP developer. So we can process your paperwork and put your information and process it with the agencies necessary to get the rebate. So in the SGIP program, there's two. The main one, everybody qualifies for. So everyone that gets batteries can do the SGIP paperwork through a developer, and you can get, according to their website, 15 to 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you did 10 kilowatt hours, that'd be like $1,500 back. If you did 20, that'd be $3,000, and so on. So you can get a rebate back. So you get a little bit. You'll get a nice check there too. That rebate also might take a year to get back, but you will get that back. Now there's another program called Equity Resilience, and that SGIP Equity Resilience program is the one that everybody wants, but only a few qualify for it. You have to be in a fire zone. There's a few requirements, but the main ones that usually qualify people are fire zone and low income, or fire zone and on medical baseline for PG&E in our area. If you qualify for that one, you can get up to $1 per kilowatt hour. So if you had a 10 kilowatt hour battery, you could get $10,000 back, and that would certainly pay for the battery and installation after your tax credit, So if you qualify for that one, you're in a position where if you're already getting solar anyway, you could get those batteries for free or close to free, maybe 90 cents, top dollar.
And you can go on and target these areas. You can go on and you can look up maps where it shows fire zones and zip codes and areas of the state that are in those fire zones. And when it comes to a medical baseline, all they have to do is qualify for, there's so many different ways to qualify. I mean, I've heard of people, I need to make sure I can plug in an electric heater for my arthritis. I've got a CPAP machine. All of those things qualify, but you can't do that on the front end with SGIP through Tom as an example. to get on that medical baseline, basically you go to your doctor with a form from your utility, and you take that in and your doctor signs it. You send that into the utility. The utility then puts you on the medical baseline, which is the better rate. And then boom, you're automatically now going to qualify when Tom or your SGIP developer, puts in all the applications. If that medical baseline's already in there because you did it separately before all this process with your doctor signing off on it, then you do the SGIP. That'll make the payback of getting that rebate and all of that process go a lot faster. That's just something that I've heard. But are you having a challenge with that? Or I mean, there's a lot of fire zones up in your area and a lot of folks who are living with, CPAPs and deep breathing devices and all sorts of different reasons to be on medical baseline. In other words, are we looking at a very small minority of folks that salespeople like yourself can go target and companies can go help? Or is this like Katie barred the door? There's a lot of opportunity here that's untouched. What are your thoughts?
There's not, only so many people qualify for it. And then there is a financial barrier too, because you have to wait for that rebate. So it's not like you just get it. So you do have to come up with the money up front, either finance or cash, in order to pay for the system and wait for that rebate. As far as the paperwork, when you're dealing with these SGIP rebates, it's like with any bureaucracy, like with PG&E, it's very, very tedious, back and forth, and it just takes a while for them to get. That's why they even say expect it to take over a year to get your rebate back. But you do get it back. We have many of our customers that have gotten it back. It's just you do have to be patient with it. So you do have to come up with the money up front. In some cases, people will take out a loan in the interim and then pay it off when the money comes in. There's ways, but yeah, I mean it's a smaller demographic. A lot of people want it, but not a lot of people qualify for it. We get calls all the time for that, but you really have to meet the qualifications, and then, like I said, you kind of have to some way afford it until you get the rebate back.
Tom Sbrega Electric, partners with Sologent. He's been working with us here at Sologent and getting supplies from our myriad of different amazing suppliers for quite a while now. And we greatly appreciate working with you, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us today, especially learning all about this SGIP program, being that Sbrega Electric is an SGIP, self-generation incentive program developer in California. How exciting that we get to learn so much. Let's shift gears, Tom. You live off grid, and that's how you got into all of this, and we've got our past episodes of you telling that story. Folks, if you want to check it out, past episodes right here at the Sologent YouTube channel with Tom Sbrega on previously. His story is amazing. He started off grid and learned how to do all of this by doing it for himself. And now he provides a majority of battery-based systems to customers in Central California and in the mountain area by Yosemite, etc., Coors Gold. Phenomenal company. Now specializing in batteries means, and living off grid means, you have a different perspective than a lot of installers that are just getting into the battery game because they have to right now. You've been living with batteries for quite a while. A lot of customers say, I want to be off the grid, Tom. Off the grid. Screw the utility. I'm done with this. Okay, that's possible. It's energy in versus energy out. But how do you handle that conversation? Because not everybody who thinks they want to go totally off the grid really understands what that means. Talk a little bit about that and how you help qualify and have those conversations with interested customers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I lived off grid for years. Currently, I don't live off grid, but I actually have a Solar 15K that I run my entire 200 amp service through with my house. So if I ever have a power outage, I have simplified batteries and my inverter there. I can keep my house running, the entire thing. When you do live completely off grid, 100% off grid, as long as you design it properly with enough solar and batteries, you should have only a few days a year where you have to actually rely on an outside source of power, such as a generator. Now, people in the NEM3 world now, where you need to have batteries in order to make the system profitable, because you don't want to sell it back to PG&E, they are kind of living off grid with a new solar. You know, when you buy a full system to take out 90% of your bill, which is what we're doing now, those big giant systems are essentially off-grid systems that use PG&E once in a while, kind of like an off-grid system would use a generator once in a while. So that's kind of how it works.
The conversation that I have oftentimes, Tom, with folks who get that bill and they go, take me off of the utility altogether. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead and run the numbers. And the first mistake that a lot of solar companies who aren't used to storage do is they try to do the average. They try to say, okay, well, we're sizing the PV array like we normally would, and based on the average kilowatt hours per, throughout the year. And then based on that per day average, here's the size of storage we need, and they think they have whole home backup. But come July or August, when it's hot as hell and kilowatt hour usage is over double what it normally is from that average, that battery's going to die in a couple hours? It's not going to run all that. And so there's a misunderstanding that folks have of sizing storage based on averages, or our PV is this, so the battery should be that. Let's make a kit. It doesn't work that way. Every system is customized, and you cannot size storage if you're going whole home backup on an annual per day average based on the annual daily usage. You have to build it on that max day usage. If you want whole home backup, you want it to work when the grid goes down in July or August, right? You need to base it on that max day usage. Sizing storage for whole home backup, talk a little bit about that. It's not the same as traditional solar based on where they size on averages, right? For PV normally, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of things to go over, but you're right in what you're talking about as far as the design. A design for a whole home backup, or really, honestly, any design for solar now with the NEM3 climate has become a lot more complicated. And there is a learning curve to go through. And I think this is what scared a lot of the bigger companies away, and because of the learning curve. Because you have to design it and watch the system work and the batteries work. And we've been doing this for 5 years, and we have hundreds of sites that we can look at and watch how they're working. And we learn from them, and we've learned how to size it correctly and how to get the most use out of your system. And that's going to be a little bit harder for people in the industry to catch up on, because it does have a little bit of a learning curve, You can use the tools. The tools nowadays are great. They're getting better and better. I'm really impressed with some of the new algorithms for the NEM3, where it shows you can download your 15-minute intervals for the entire year last year for PG&E, and you can upload that into the program, and it'll tell you what you're using at night and how many batteries you need and how much this can offset your bill, and it'll literally base it on, it'll take things into account like the seasons, like you were talking about, winter and summer, and what you're using at night in 15-minute intervals. It's taking those data points and telling you if you have 30 kilowatt of batteries and 15 kilowatts of solar, you're going to have a 90% bill reduction, and that can save somebody $5,000 a year or $6,000 a year. They might still pay $1,000 a year, but they're saving most of their bills. It's really interesting. The world changed a lot in California for solar, and fortunately we were prepared for it. So we're kind of having a good time designing these systems and putting them to use.
Imagine being a solar company that says what Tom just said. We're having a good time. We're enjoying it. This is a great time for us. Imagine if your solar company, instead of laying people off, was excited about this time that we're in instead of being worried and scared. you could have the same confidence that Tom has. All you have to do is embrace energy storage and the solutions therein. Go to the Solagent YouTube channel. We have what is called the Solagent Storage Webinar Series there, along with promo educational videos on a majority of the solar battery options that we have available, the storage options we have available here at Solagent. It's all there at the Solagent YouTube channel. As long as you don't get tired of hearing my voice and seeing my pretty face, you'll be fine. Because all of the knowledge is there. All you have to do is go take the time to watch it. And I would say just go on YouTube and learn, but there's a lot of misinformation on YouTube. Go to the Solagent YouTube channel and you'll find all of my videos there, promo educational videos on all of our different storage options, features, benefits, how to sell storage, strategies on how to sell energy storage, all sorts of resources, free value education knowledge there to empower you to give the response when asked, how do you feel about energy storage and solar right now? And instead of saying, oh, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, NEM 3, I have to lay people off. Instead of going down that route, you can have the response that Tom just had. We're excited right now. This is the best time to be doing what we're doing, and we're enjoying designing and helping customers with these battery systems. Wouldn't you rather have that response like Tom just gave us of his optimism, of his solar and storage business right now in this time, versus the pessimism of those who are laying people off that have not embraced storage? It's not a very hard decision to make. Tom, thank you for being an example, a shining example to others in our business of where they need to go. What do they need to do to be successful in this tumultuous time where challenges are coming at them, but there are solutions to these challenges. And you at Sbrega Electric, you've embraced those. They're not challenges, they're opportunities. Right, Tom?
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is definitely an opportunity waiting for the right person, you know. And these yeah, you're right. If you kind of look at it in the right perspective, there's nothing to be worried about. I don't see this changing the industry much. Customers are catching on. They're catching on because they're starting to call now. They're starting to pick up the phone again and reach out and, yeah, I'm interested in solar. And when I show them the payback, they're realizing that it's not that bad. It's not much different than if they didn't have batteries, you know. Here's unfortunate aspects that have nothing to do with solar, like the finance rate sky high, but that's just unfortunate for people looking for lending. But even then, we can still make the payoff worth it. It's not as good as it used to be, but it is. But I mean, the return on investment for cash is definitely, I mean, it's right there. Like I said, it's just a tiny bit longer. You got to wait for your ROI. And when people see this, when you can put it in front of them and show them the graphs and show them what's going on, they get it. So I think it's just a matter of educating the public and the potential customers to understand how this new world works with solar and the payback. And they'll realize it's not, they didn't miss the boat on solar. You can still make it an incredible investment, and with the battery backup benefits too for those who need it.
Energy storage, solar solutions available here at Solagent, and an amazing partner that works with us here at Solagent. He's got his own business in Central California up in the foothills by Yosemite, hailing from Coors, California. You drive through Coors, by the way. There's a big old giant wooden statue of an old miner, you know, mining for gold and everything, got the pickaxe and everything. Like, you guys are so cool. The area that you service, Sbrega Electric, the people that you service, it's amazing. The mountain community, Bass Lake, North Fork, Coors Gold, Yosemite, like you said, all the way down to the 180. I mean, you've got a lot of customers that have a very special need that maybe folks in the city don't have. So we really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us. How exciting that we get to work with you. Customers who would like, if you're homeowners, right, and you're in the area I just described, I highly recommend Sbrega Electric. Tom, for our listeners, homeowners especially, who are tuning in, who are interested in finding out more about Sbrega Electric, how can they reach you?
Yeah, you can call our office anytime, 559-961-9793. That's our office number. You can reach out on the web, sbregaelectric.com or sbregasolar.com. Takes you to the same website. Sbrega is S as in solar, B as in battery, REGA. That phone number again is area code 559-961-9793.
You're a friend and a partner, but also somewhat of a mentor as well to us all, sharing your wisdom here on the Beyond Emissions podcast. Thanks for coming on. I know you are a busy fella, so thank you very much for your time today. And as always, we look forward, we'll have you back again to continue to talk about these amazing developments in energy storage and solar here in California. Tom Sbrega, Sbrega Electric. Give him a call, 559-961-9793. Tom, thank you so much for being here. Hang on for our engineer, sir.
No problem. Thanks, Josh.
Tom Sbrega, Sbrega Electric. Again, give him a call, 559-961-9793. You're listening to the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Solagent, your clean energy solution provider.
We at Solagent are incredibly excited to announce our partnership with Give Power. Well, we wouldn't be here today talking to you about Give Power if it wasn't for our partners, LoanPal. They've been with Give Power since the beginning. Their contribution has given water and light to countless people across the globe. We are truly inspired by LoanPal's dedication to the cause. Something LoanPal said really strikes a chord regarding Give Power, that this is something that's more than money. It's what makes making money more worthwhile. In a lot of ways, that's synonymous with what we're doing here at Solagent.
Here's how you can help.
What we've decided to do is compound LoanPal's contribution by donating to Give Power on every order paid via our direct pay program through LoanPal. That's right. Every time your company uses your LoanPal portal to pay Solagent for material, 5 people get clean drinking water for a full year.
Together we're stronger.
Together, we can choose to be extraordinary by giving to people who live outside our reach. To us, this means a lot more.
Solagent's purpose meets Give Power's mission. Join the impact. Solagent, Solar Engine. SolarEngineSolutions.com. Go there to find out more.